To excel, you must win each day, one after the other, and then over time, it's these winning days that compound into winning months, winning years, and winning careers. And if you master the day, the years will tend to take care of themselves. And this is where your habits come in. Now, when I'm talking to you about habits, I'm doing so at both the personal level, but also at the organizational level. Every organization has habits, some good, some not so good. So leaders, owners, managers, keep this in mind as we go through this process. Now, one of my favorite quotes that everyone who works with me is probably sick to death of is that excellence is not about doing extraordinary things. It's about doing ordinary things extraordinarily well. And the reality is outlier performers and organizations do ordinary things, but they do them without thinking consistently well and for a long time, which is what enables their progress to compound and hit tipping points. It's what gets them to the top, but then keeps them there. Sustaining all it takes to excel can feel overwhelming. That tends to be because we think that executing all these habits is a case of sheer discipline. If you miss a training session, procrastinate or sleep in, it's because you lack willpower or you're mentally weak. And of course, you can choose to overpower temptation through forcing discipline, but in the long term, it's a terrible losing strategy. Yes, discipline's important. No one with a right mind would argue otherwise. But outlier performers who might appear to have this sickening level of discipline are ironically the ones who need it the least. These individuals have an internal compulsion to act on the right things at the right times, and it strikes them without thinking. They've structured their lives in ways that do not require Herculean willpower to help them win their day. They form great habits. Again, the focus is on working smarter, not harder. And there is nothing that consolidates your development trajectory like a set of functional habits. Motivation is going to come and go, but habits stick. They're like algorithms operating in the background that power your life. And when you're executing habits, everything's automatic and effortless, which means they sustain you whether you're inspired, motivated, determined, or not. To optimize your habits, you need to understand how they work. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So, habits arise in a 3-step cycle. The basic process is that you experience a cue, a trigger that sparks this set of automatic reactions. This could include feeling bored. The cue is a feeling, an emotion. Then you enact a routine, a specific series of actions you undertake when the cue is triggered, which then gives you a reward. The quality of the reward is going to dictate how powerful the desire to act will be. In this case, the reward might be escape from boredom, feel content, or some kind of emotional payoff. And when you repeat this cycle enough times, the reward will eventually create a craving. Cravings are the motivational force behind every habit. They're driven by the motivation hormone, dopamine, which is way more powerful than your discipline, motivation, and resilience. The more you repeat the habit, the earlier the dopamine is released. And eventually, just thinking about a habit will make you feel good, which is great if you've got good habits, not so great if the habit is suboptimal in terms of your performance. The beauty here, though, is that you can manipulate this 3-step habit cycle in a way that enables you to optimize your habits and win your day through designing, building, and reshaping each component part to help eliminate negative habits, but to also fortify positive habits. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do now. If this is landing, good. That means you're ready. This isn't entertainment. It's your edge. Use it. Hit like, subscribe. Let's move. So let's start at the beginning with cues. So the first thing that dictates any behavior are the cues in front of you. Through keeping the cues for desirable behavior front and center, you can trigger the cravings that compel you to take the right types of action. And if you can make the negative cues invisible, very often the entire negative habit disintegrates. This is really about becoming the architect of your environment, filling it with productive cues and eliminating the negative ones. So in terms of building positive habits and manipulating cues, you must plant the cues that trigger the behaviors that win your days. So if you want to practice the guitar, don't tuck it away in the closet. If you want to drink more water, Keep filled water bottles stored in locations you'll actually see them. And when it comes to eliminating negative habits, if there's no cue, there's no craving. The cue is what creates the craving behind every habit. So without the craving, you avoid that anticipatory dopamine squirt, and there's no desire to actually engage in that bad habit in the first place. So removing things from plain sight is one way to do this. If you're interrupted by calls, emails, texts, leave your phone in another room. If you're wasting too much time on Netflix, move the television out your bedroom. If you're playing too much FIFA, Fortnite, or whatever nonsense it might be, unplug the console and store it out of sight. If you're feeling insecure, stop following social media accounts that trigger those feelings of inferiority. The next area we can manipulate is the routine part of the habit. Every action requires a certain amount of energy, and the more energy required, the less likely that behavior is to occur. We call this the path of least resistance. So the key here is to reduce the effort required to enact your good habits and to increase the effort associated with your bad ones. In terms of building positive habits, when you decide to get into shape, you might feel you have to do everything at once. You join the gym, you buy your new running kit, you cut out all the junk food, you set your alarm for 5:30, you're mentally preparing for a David Goggins-inspired all-out assault on fitness. You're motivated, excited, full of willpower to get started, and that's great. But after a week, maybe a month, the motivation is lost, the excitement's gone, and the romance is dead. You've got nothing left to give. Why? Because you've made fitness a short-term, inconvenient nightmare instead of making it a long-term, sustainable part of your winning day. And here's the critical point. If you want to make a habit stick, you need to make it easy to do. A new habit does not have to feel like a massive challenge. Instead, think of it as like a seed you plant that will grow across time. Meditate for 1 minute instead of 20. Sit and read one page of a novel instead of 3 chapters. Performing the habit is way more important than doing the perfect amount required to excel. And by starting out small, you're less likely to say no. This way, you'll do it even when you don't feel like it. And this is how you create habits that last and will grow. A great hack here is to use something called habit stacking. What you do here is use your existing habits to build in new ones through adding them to the existing routine. So, for example, I get up, I pour my morning coffee, I stretch for 1 minute. After stretching for a minute, I close my eyes and visualize executing my winning day. On the flip side, when it comes to eliminating our bad habits, remember, if you want to do something less, you need to make it harder to do. If a routine requires more effort than you're willing to expend, you just won't do it. Any behavior that's easy to get addicted to, like scrolling through social media, binge watching Netflix, ordering junk food, can be performed with close to zero effort. Unplug the TV, take the batteries out of the remote after each use. Don't keep junk food in your house. This forces you to exert inconvenient effort to execute the habit. Deleting social media apps on your phone so you're forced to log in through a web browser each time. Removing your credit card information from e-commerce sites so you can't buy without thinking twice. Setting your alarm and leaving it at the end of your bed so you're sort of forced to get up when it goes off are all examples of how you can make your bad habits a lot harder to execute, which dramatically reduces the probability you engage in them. You can even make it impossible to execute through making a decision in the present that controls your actions in the future. You can use apps to block out work email from Friday evening through to a Monday morning. You can book a 2-week green zone retreat a year in advance if taking time out is a habit you really need to establish. You can even program automatic timers to cut off the power to the Wi-Fi router at, say, 8 o'clock. There's also great apps like Off Time, Break Free, or Flip D that analyze your use of your smartphones and allow you to set custom lockouts. The best don't guess. They run systems. Gold medalists, special forces commanders, billion-dollar investors. In Accelerating Excellence, the podcast, they break down how. Link below. The final component of the habit cycle we can manipulate is the reward piece. Whenever you perceive that something will be rewarding, your levels of dopamine spike in anticipation. And whenever dopamine rises, so does your motivation to act. If you increase the reward, you increase the motivation. If you reduce the reward, you reduce the motivation. There are about 3 ways you could use rewards to build positive habits. Now, the first is to establish a very clear, explicit reward. One way to do this is by what we call habit coupling. And here what you do is link the activities you already do, like relaxing or watching Netflix, with those you aspire to establish, like exercising, meditating, or going to bed early. You can create a motivation to act. You can meditate in a perfectly drawn bath, or you can exercise while listening to your favorite audiobook, or even watching Netflix. The second is habit tracking. Progress is the ultimate motivation, and this is what's great about habit tracking. All you need is a calendar and a pen. And every day you execute your routine, you get to mark your calendar with a big green tick, building a visual cue that you've executed your habit, providing a sign that you're moving forward. Just marking your tick becomes the reward itself. It gives you satisfying visual proof of your hard work and a subtle reminder of how far you've come. And this habit tracking has been shown to increase adherence with habits from anywhere between 20 right up to 80%. And the amount of people I meet that say, I do that. And I can just tell by looking at them that they're talking nonsense. Most of us are so delusional when it comes to the facts, what we think we do versus what we actually do. We are so bad at monitoring our own behavior, and habit tracking keeps this delusion on track really, really well. Your third option is to optimize your social circle. It's easier to get to bed an hour earlier if everyone else does. It's easier to be active if everyone else is. Spending time with those people who have established the habits you seek increases the probability of you sticking to the change. And not only that, it's a great source of information, encouragement, and praise. And when it comes to eliminating bad habits and leveraging resources, the first thing you need to do is figure out what the reward is. And this can be confusing at times. It's not always obvious, but there is always a purpose or goal in there somewhere, even if objectively the habit appears to be moronic. So you need to switch your thinking from why did I do that to what did I get out of that? The reward you crave is not the habit itself, but the change in your emotional state it delivers. So when you binge eat, drink too much, or doom scroll social media platforms, what you really want to do is to feel different. The question then becomes whether there are more functional ways to feel different. So here you work with the same cues and rewards, but you adapt the routine. If you're craving sugar, for example, it's not necessarily chocolate you need. It could be an orange, kiwi fruit, or apple. And believe it or not, there's actually a decent chance that the sugar in the fruit will actually satisfy the craving. And by substituting a new routine, so your orange for your chocolate, you optimize the habit. When it comes to unhealthy snacking, the classic go-to when talking about habits, the question is whether the reward we're seeking to satisfy is hunger or overcoming boredom. Most of the time, snacking is a symptom of boredom and can be substituted with another routine. This can range from engaging your mind in some kind of game, be it board, electronic, physical, stimulating conversation, again, digital or in person, or simply eating something less unhealthy. It doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, better is better. Another reason that so many of us struggle with habits in terms of rewards is what we call secondary gain. Secondary gain are the rewards we receive from our problems. Most of the time you fail to break bad habits will be because somewhere those bad habits provide you with rewards that you might not be conscious of yet. Take stress, it's a great example. It can be a highly rewarding habit for some. By sticking with stress, you don't have to exert any effort. You go on receiving sympathy from family, friends, loved ones, which is a very real and rewarding benefit for some people. Plus, there might be the perception that getting rid of stress comes at a very high price. For starters, you'd have to take responsibility for doing something about it. You'd have to admit you do it to yourself. You'd have to stop blaming others. You'd also have to learn new skills, acquire knowledge, practice, to reinforce all of this, it's all very real and demanding, and that's why most just don't bother. The good news is that once you've identified the secondary gain, you have the option to structure more functional ways to achieve those rewards. You could ask loved ones to stop giving you sympathy. You could find healthy ways to relax. You could acquire just one or two very simple skills that might combat the stress we were talking about. And as a consequence, you can start to weaken and eventually break the habit. And again, it's about planting seeds, not taking the sledgehammer to the habit necessarily. Not that I'm adverse to a sledgehammer here and there. Excellence is no accident. It's engineered. If you're serious about becoming everything you're capable of, accelerating excellence is your blueprint. No more guesswork. The system's in the book, link below. Now, bring it back up a level in terms of generally conquering your habits. I want to give you a few more options to stack the odds in your favor. There's another extremely effective strategy you can engage in. Aside from manipulating the habit cycle itself, thinking ahead, would you believe it, has been proven to be highly effective. Written plans can double the rate at which you acquire habits and eliminate negative ones. Specifically, writing about where you perceive temptation to be the strongest, when it's likely to occur, and what strategy could potentially overcome it. This process primes your mind to exhibit the adaptive response if and when those challenges arise. And even better, very often prevent them arising in the first place. And prevention is always better than cure. So the questions you need to answer in this case are, first up, why is the habit beneficial if it's a positive habit, or detrimental to you if it's a negative habit? The second question is, what is the cue? Question 3, what is the routine that you will tend to run? Question 4, what's the reward? Question 5, how will you avoid any negative cues? Question 6, how will you respond if you do encounter them? Question 7, how will you feel if you make the right choices? Question 8, and how will you feel if you make the wrong choices? Question 9, and final question, what will forming this habit or eliminating the habit mean for you and those you care about, manage, or lead? You can write these questions down in a diary form each morning, or even just listen through this, or we're going to put a link in the show notes here to a guided audio clip of me talking through these questions so that you can just save and listen in each morning, priming yourself, answering the questions in your head as you go. The returns for doing so are enormous. So a final few tips from me. When it comes to optimizing your habits so that you can win your days, first up, better beats perfect every day of the week. It is so easy to get bogged down trying to find the perfect plan, the fastest way to lose weight, the best program to build muscle, the perfect idea for your side hustle. And you could end up so focused on figuring out the best approach that you never get around to taking any action. If you want to master a habit, the key is to start with repetition, not perfection. So again, we're looking at planting the seed that will grow across time. Second up is that consistency beats quantity. The other potential problem is thinking that if you can't do the whole thing, then you shouldn't do it at all. Now, habits are a process, not an event. You don't have to do it all. If you don't have enough time to do a full workout, just crack 5,000 steps at lunchtime. If you don't have enough time to write an article, write a paragraph. And if you don't have enough time to do yoga, sit in a squat and take 3 deep breaths, then move into a forward hang. Legs straight, touch your toes, and take another 3 deep breaths. Individually, these less than perfect behaviors seem insignificant, but it's the cumulative impact of sticking to the schedule that builds robust habits that stick. Finally, avoid consecutive errors. So it works a little bit like this. You avoid social media all day, then 3 o'clock, you cannot help yourself and get sucked into a 30-minute doom scrolling session. Or you get up on time all week, then on Friday, you hit snooze. You follow your eating plan religiously for a week and then break it up with a Saturday binge. Slip-ups don't make you a failure. They make you human. Missing one opportunity to perform the behavior does not materially affect the habit formation process. It's the cumulative impact of never getting back on track that will cause you problems. So your aim should be never miss 2 in a row. Right. Through optimizing your habits, you'll win your days, you'll shift the baseline and upward trajectory of your performance, your health and quality of life for the months, years, and the life ahead of you. Please, please, please leverage this science. This works. I've studied it. I've used it personally. I've used it professionally. And now it's your turn. You have no excuses here. So get after it and start becoming that everything you can potentially be. And a great question to periodically ask yourself and check in with, drilled into me by my good friend Ted Rath, is, are your habits of today aligned with your goals of tomorrow? And if they're not, intervene, adapt, and make a new plan. Make sure you post any questions in the comments and let me know how you get on with this. And if someone you know needs to hear this, please share it. Get stuck in. Those who excel, they don't hesitate. They move fast, on principle, with intent. Lessons become action. Action becomes momentum. Momentum becomes explosive growth. Start now. Attack your day. Win it. Repeat. Performance shifts, then mindset, then life. Excellence isn't theory, it's fuel. The most powerful force on earth. Chase it down. If this hit, pass it on. Someone out there's waiting for it. I'm in this to see you win. Comments open, links below, like, subscribe. Let's move.